Welcome on into the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. Got another episode coming your way today. It is the AFLW Round 7 review and Round 8 preview episode of this 2025 season. Episode number 73 of the year. AFL men's season is officially wrapped up, but the content doesn't stop there. We have a lot coming your way over the next few weeks. AFLW is really heating up. We've passed the halfway mark. So we're flying through that season. Plenty of content that way. Men's, we've got trade week and free agency coming up. A lot of content about that. We also have obviously draft coming up soon enough. We've got plenty of end of season awards to do as well. So plenty of content coming your way on the podcast. So make sure if you haven't already, hit that follow or subscribe button. That's what we're here for. Plenty of good content. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoy this one and leave a comment below. Let me know how your favourite AFLW team is going this year. Let's jump into the Round 7 review. Starting on Thursday night last week was GMHBA Stadium, a rematch of what was one of, if not the best games of last season. Geelong Hawthorn. Obviously, probably not as good as last year, let's be fair. But the Hawks get the win, come from behind victory in the end. It was a weird sort of game in some respects, but overall, I think Hawthorn were probably the better team. They did kick the first one before the Cats got a couple. By halftime, Geelong were 10 points clear in this one, 4-2 to 2-4. And then they kicked the first of the third quarter, and at that point, you're thinking Geelong are looking all right here. 5 goals to 2 and 16 points clear 3 minutes into the third quarter. And it took another almost 10 minutes before Hawthorn got another score on the board. But, boy, did the Hawks turn it on late. They got the last 2 goals of the third quarter to get them within 4 points at 3-quarter time. They then kicked the only 2 goals of the last quarter. They finished with the last 4 goals of the match to win this one by 7 points. Turns out Geelong just didn't have an answer when it mattered most. Not the first time that they finished a game poorly this season and been run over the top of. But in the end, Hawthorn did what Hawthorn have done all season long, and that's getting home in close-ish games. I think they've only really smacked one team, and every other game has basically been close. But their record's looking really good. They're getting wins, and that's probably the most important thing. They definitely dominated most of the stat sheet in this game. They had an extra 17 inside 50s. They had 30 extra disposals. They dominated clearances plus 8. You look at the All Aussie Rules team rating, which is on the screen if you're watching this as a video. If you're just listening to the audio, Hawthorn rated a 62.26, Geelong a 54.04. So it's not a complete domination, but it's certainly a game that Hawthorn controlled many of the stats and many of the numbers. And in that second half, certainly the last quarter and a bit, they finally started to put some scoreboard pressure on the Cats. And I think that's where we're at in the end with this one. Our league best and fairest votes. So this is basically the women's competition. Brownlow. We do our 3-2-1 each and every week based on what we think the umpires will give. And we'll have the leaderboard coming up after we've reviewed all 9 matches this weekend. Just to give you an idea of where we think the leaderboard sits. So stick around. That's coming up shortly. 3 votes we've gone with Lucy Wales, 2 votes to Georgie Prespakis, and 1 vote to Eliza West. Multiple goal kickers, there was 3 of them, 2 for the Cats. Jacqueline Parry and Aisling Maloney got 4 of their 5 goals. And then for the Hawks, it was Aine McDonough with 2 goals again, putting together a good season. 2 goals, 2 in this one. MVP votes is a little bit different. This is our highest rated players. We do a rating system here at All Aussie Rules. Every single player for every single game gets put in their position and a rating based on how well they play. And we do that for every match. It gives us a rating system that we use across the whole AFLW season, ranks players by position, by everything. And yeah, that's basically the long and the short of it. And that goes towards the MVP votes. So top 5 players for both teams get votes. The winning team, top 5 players get 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2 votes. The losing team get half of that at 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Hawthorn, the winning team, 10. Oh, sorry, I've got 10 goes to Jenna Richardson. Had 19 touches in this one, was really efficient, as well as 13 marks. 8 goes to Lucy Wales in the ruck, 16 hitouts, 5 clearances to go with 27 disposals in the ruck. You heard that correctly. Massive game. Eliza West, 27 disposals, 7 clearances. Aiden McDonough with 2 goals, 14 touches, gets 4 votes. And Emily Bates gets the 2 votes for 25 disposals, 8 tackles, 5 clearances. Over on the other side of the fence, it was the Cats, and Amy McDonald gets the 5. Another good performance there. Georgie Prasparkas, 25 touches, 5 clearances, 10 tackles, gets the 4. Aisling Maloney, as we said, got kicked 2 goals, 13 touches, gets 3 votes. Nina Morrison in the midfield gets 2 votes. And Jacqueline Parry, also kicking 2 goals, gets the 1 vote for the Cats. And that's basically a wrap on that game. Hawthorn, clearly, I think, the better team on the day. And probably across this season. Geelong have shown some signs all year long that they're going okay, that they're a decent team, but they've just lost too many games like this so far that it's kind of hurting their season and their progress. They're still only a game outside of the 8 plus a little bit of percentage. There's still plenty of opportunities, 5 games left. If they can win at least maybe 3 to 4 of those, they're a genuine chance. They've got a big game this weekend though against Carlton, so we'll see how that goes. Hawthorn, meanwhile, they're flying 6-1, just the 1 loss. They're 3rd on the ladder. They have Fremantle this week. If they knock the Dockers off, they are looking very, very good for a top 4 finish. At the moment, Kangaroos are the runaways with Melbourne with a massive percentage in 2nd. But Hawthorn certainly look almost the best of the rest behind those 2, I think, at the moment. But there are plenty of other teams that are in that scrap. You're looking towards the teams like Adelaide and Carlton that are certainly in that scrap, and you can never rule out Brisbane Lions, certainly over the recent few years. Sydney, I'm still a little bit hesitant on. They've lost 3 in a row, and they play the top of the ladder North Melbourne Kangaroos this week, so we don't know where they're at. And quite possibly could lose 4 in a row. Moving on to Friday, we had a lot of games on Friday in round 7 due to the AFL Men's Grand Final on Saturday and no AFLW on that Saturday because of that. But we got Melbourne v Gold Coast to kick us off, and this was an absolute domination. We kind of expected it to be semi-one-sided, maybe not as much as it was. 13-15-93 to 0-6-6 for the Suns. You'll notice the team ratings on the screen are obviously incorrect. It's meant to be the other way around. Melbourne, a rating of 72.69. Gold Coast, a rating of 41.02. So a massive domination by Melbourne Demons in this one across the board. They dominated inside 50s plus 27, over double the amount. They had 60 extra disposals, 6 extra clearances, which against Gold Coast is a pretty good effort because the Gold Coast midfield is quite strong. It's their strongest part of their ground, but they didn't have much of an answer for Melbourne, whose elite players have been looking really, really good. After 7 rounds in the AFLW, I've done me ratings and stuff, and so we do elite players of the top 10% of each position. And at the moment, Melbourne have the most of any team in the top 10% of each position, with 5 total, I think it was. No, it might have been more than that. Anyway, they had 5, and like Kangaroos have 2. So in that elite range right now, Melbourne just have a lot of really good players playing very, very good football. If you're looking at the top 40% of players by position, Melbourne dropped down to, I think, 15, and North Melbourne have 17. So North have that probably stronger depth, but at the moment, from what we're seeing, Melbourne have that extra few players that are in the elite categories. Obviously, number 1 and 2 rated players so far this year are both Kangaroos players, though. So Jasmine Garner and Ash Riddell are playing outstanding football week in, week out. Back to this game, though. Melbourne, it was over early, I think. It was 20-3. 3 goals, 2-0-3 at quarter time. By half time, it was out to 42-4. So 38-point lead at half time. Bit of a quieter third quarter, just the 1 goal kicked, and it was 52-6 at 3-quarter time. And then the Demons really turned it on again in that last quarter, kicking 6 goals, 5-0-0. Just to completely blow them out of the water by 87 points in the end. Really comfortable win. Melbourne have put together a pretty crazy season on paper. They obviously had that 1 loss by 2 points to Port Adelaide, and a couple of weeks before that they beat Collingwood by only 4 points. But outside of that, they have pretty much been absolutely smacking teams around, and this was no different. So a really good performance from them. As we said, they dominated the stat sheet. League best and fairest. We've gone 3 to Kate Hoare, 2 to Maeve Chaplin, and 1 to Tyler Hanks. Multiple goal scorers. There was 3 of them. Kate Hoare, 2. Taylor Harris, 2. And Alyssa Bannon, 2 as well. And then, obviously, quite a few individual goal kickers as well, all for Melbourne. Just an outstanding performance, really, from the Ds. Looking at the MVP votes for the winning team, Megan Fitzsimmons gets the 10 votes. Kate Hoare gets 8. Tyler Hanks, 6. Maeve Chaplin gets the 4. And Eliza McNamara gets 2 votes. For the losing team, Gold Coast Suns, a lot harder to find their best players, but the rating system has McLaughlin on top after 17 disposal game with 5 votes. Charlie Rowbottom continued her, splendid start to the season, as we expect from Charlie. Another 4 votes there. 3 goes to Lucy Single, also in the middle of the ground. Lily Mithen gets the 2 against her old team. And Clara Fitzpatrick gets the 1 vote in this one for the Gold Coast Suns. Pretty simple wrap up of that game. Melbourne just the class. They're second on the ladder, a percentage of almost 300. Offensively, they can put a massive score on the board. Defensively, they can absolutely shut teams down. So a lot of things going right for Melbourne. It's kind of what we expected to see from them for a fair chunk of last season, and they just didn't quite bring it at any point. But they certainly have this year so far. So if they continue this way, they will certainly be in the conversation as one of the only teams that can genuinely challenge the Kangaroos. Because at the moment, there's not many teams on paper that look like they genuinely can do that. Unfortunately, we're not going to see that matchup until at least finals. But it will be interesting if we do get that one, I think. Moving on to Gold Coast, they're sitting currently second last on the ladder with just 1 win, 6 losses. Their percentage is well below Richmond, who is 1 win behind them on the AFLW ladder, sorry. So if Richmond were to win a game, there's a chance that Gold Coast will drop back to 18th. They play Brisbane this week, the Gold Coast Suns, so they're certainly going to have their work cut out for them if they're going to challenge the Brisbane Lions in the Q clash this week. Certainly don't expect Gold Coast to be probably winning many if any games throughout the rest of this season. They just have some work to do to catch up to most of the rest of the field. The bottom 4 or 5 teams certainly at the moment look like they're a little bit off the rest. Next up, we had Essendon Kangaroos, and for the first time this year, the first time in almost probably 12 months, the Kangaroos had a little scare early. They end up getting the comfortable win, 10-11, 71 to 6-5, 41, but that first quarter was all Bombers on the stat sheet and on the scoreboard. It was 3-2-20 to 0-0 for the Kangaroos. The Bombers came out to play early, and it was a little bit concerning for the Roos. Things did steady and turn around, but without a doubt, that was the best performance any team has put up against Kangaroos so far this year. So well done to the Bombers, because their recent form had really been struggling. So to see a good performance from them, albeit they lose by 30 points, but a good performance is something we haven't seen too much from them over the previous 3 or 4 weeks. So that was a positive. After quarter time, it was all Kangaroos, though. They were leading quite comfortably by half time by 14 points. They kicked 5-5 to 0-1 in that second quarter. There was certainly a scoring end. I don't think there was a goal kicked to the end that the Kangaroos went in the first quarter. Oh no, they got one goal, sorry. They got one goal really late in the third quarter through Tess Craven. That was the only goal kicked to one end of the ground. So, oh no, Bombers got one as well. I'm just talking absolute smack, apparently. The Bombers got one in the last quarter. So it was 2 goals up one end, 14 at the other. So there was certainly a scoring end, even if it wasn't as much as my brain was telling me. But it was certainly a scoring end. And Kangaroos got the job done in the end. Reasonably comfortably, 30 points. I think a good fight from the Bombers, but just they weren't quite at the class level that the Kangaroos are. Kangaroos rating of a 58.79, Bombers 52.2. So pretty good. Numbers suggest it was the best performance by any team against the Roos this year. Kangaroos ended up dominating clearances inside 50s plus 13. They had more disposals, but a lot less disposals than they average. So their average is well over 300 disposals per match. They had 281 in this, so another sign that the Bombers put up a really good fight. League best and fairest votes, we've gone Ash Riddell 3. Just another week for Ash. 2 to Georgia Nanscarwin and 1 to Madison Prespakis. Multiple goal kickers, there was 3 of them, 2 for the Roos. Kate Sherlaw and Blathine Borg both kicked 2. Sophie Alexander for the Bombers kicked another 2 as well. MVP votes in this one. No surprise, Ash Riddell was the highest rated for the Roos. Gets the 10 votes, had another 28 touches and a goal. Ellis Sharon gets the 8. Just fitted into this Kangaroos lineup perfectly in her first season. For the Roos, Mia King gets the 6, Jasmine Garner 4, and Talia Randall gets the 2 votes. Over the other side of the fence, the losing team, Bonnie Toogood gets the 5, Georgia Nanscarwin for 22 touches gets the 4, Amy Gaylor gets the 3, Sophie Alexander kicked 2 goals and gets 2 votes, Madison Prespakis gets the 1 vote. Just too good in the end, the Kangaroos. Too much class, too much ability. 7-0 this season. It's been forever since they've lost a game. They do go up this week against a team that early season looked like maybe a challenger for them, but the recent 3 weeks has not been good for the Swans. It's down in Tassie. I will be at that game. But you just imagine it's just another chance for the Roos to get another win. It's hard to see any teams that you wouldn't be thinking that the Roos are going to win against. Doesn't matter where they play or who it is against. They just look that good so far this season. Bombers, they're sitting 11th on the ladder. Obviously, this one was not as bad a result as the previous weeks, where they now lost 4 in a row. Their season started pretty well, but they're really struggling for form, and they go up against second top of the ladder in Melbourne this week. It's not going to be easy for them. They need to find a way to put in a better performance again than what they did last week. They were really good, but they need to take that to another level. Melbourne have been playing really good, so it's not going to be easy for them. Finals could be slipping away very quickly for the Bombers. Next up, we have Carlton hosting Fremantle. This was Icon Park on Friday evening. one of many games that we had across the weekend. And Carlton, just too good in the end. 5-2-32 to 3-5-23. It was a tightly contested game throughout. As you can see, the All Aussie Rules team rating system says that it was a close game. Freo 55-34, Carlton 54-46. But, importantly, the Blues get the win. First quarter, Dockers kicked the first before Carlton kicked the last two of the first quarter to lead by 7 points. Second quarter was the other way. Freo kicked the only 2 goals and had a 1 point lead. Oh, sorry. They had more than a 1 point lead, 7 point lead, and then Carlton kicked the last of the quarter to have a 1 point, to trail by 1 point to the Dockers at halftime. Third quarter, there was not a goal kicked, just the one behind for the Blues, which tied it up going into the final quarter. But Carlton's class this year has been quite good, and they did it again. Prevailed when it mattered. Brianne Harrington kicked a goal, and Meg Robertson kicked the final goal to give the Blues the 9 point win. Impressive effort again from the Blues, who are putting together a fine season, and maybe, just maybe, top 4 is a possibility. The stat sheet says it was close. Dockers had more of the ball. Inside 50s were +1 to Carlton. Clearances were +15 to the Dockers. They are a very clearance-heavy team, though, the Dockers, so no real surprise in that stat. B&F votes were gone. Keely Shearer for Carlton getting 3. Kiara Bowers for the Dockers getting 2. And Harriet Cordner for the Carlton Blues, the tall defender, key defender, getting 1 vote. Individual stats, goal kickers, no multiple goal scorers in this game. MVP votes for the Blues. It's key defender. Probably, I would say, the number 1 key defender in the competition right now. It's Harriet Cordner. Been fantastic all year. I think the only one that is genuinely in the conversation right now, right this minute, is Cambridge McCormick for GWS. I think they're the 2 best key defenders so far this year. Harriet Cordner, 20 touches. Really good game, 10 votes. Moving on, 8 votes goes to Madeline Hendry for the Blues. 13 touches in this one. 6 goes to Mimi Hill, 22 touches and a goal. 4 to Keely Shearer, 23 disposals, 7 clearances, 10 tackles. And Aroni Fitzpatrick is having a great season, 20 touches and a goal in this one. For the Dockers, 5 votes goes to Gabrielle Newton. 28 touches and a goal with 4 clearances is a huge game. Emma O'Driscoll gets the 4 votes for 20 touches. Kiara Bowers gets 3 votes, having a big couple of weeks. 22 touches and 11 tackles in this one, as well as 8 clearances. Next up, Sarah Vieira gets the 2 votes in this one, and 1 goes to Mim Strom in the ruck. And that is the votes for Carlton v Fremantle. Where's that sit, both teams? First of all, the winning team, Carlton Blues. They're sitting 5th on the ladder, 5 wins, 2 losses for the season. If they can beat the Cats this week, top 4 is genuinely a chance. It's getting hot at the moment up the top. If all 5 teams up in the top 5 win this week, they will have a decent gap on the rest. It will just be Brisbane that are really fighting to get back into that area. So yeah, Blues are cruising. Fremantle, their season, it's been an up and down, hit and miss sort of season. They've played plenty of games like this where they've certainly been a chance, but just haven't been able to put the finishing touches. They play Hawthorn this week coming up in Melbourne. They lose this one, and their season is looking very, very difficult to play finals. They nearly just about have to win every game coming home. So the pressure's starting to build on the Dockers, a team that I had high hopes for at the start of the year, and they're just not quite putting that together as it is right now. Friday night footy was an absolute demolition job. Bulldogs beat the Collingwood Magpies by 57 points, 10-5, 65-1, 2-8. Collingwood went into this as favourites after a few good weeks of football. They did not bring it, but the Bulldogs certainly did. It started quickly. They kicked the first 2 goals, the Bulldogs, within 3 minutes of the start of the match, really, through Hartwig and Blackburn. It was still only 2 goals at quarter time, but 14-0. By halftime, the Doggies had almost put them away, 34-6, and it was looking dangerous when Sarah Hartwig kicked her second of the match right before half-time, and it just continued. It was 46-8 at 3/4 time and finishes up 65 plays 8, which is an absolute domination by the Bulldogs, similar to what they did to a few teams last year. When they get going, they're very, very hard to stop. So they show some really positive signs like this match. Obviously, they have played quite a few bad games throughout the last season or two, but their best certainly looks good. So I think we'll see them continue to develop, and I think top 8 still a big ask for them anytime soon, but they're certainly developing. Team rating 58.99 for the Dogs, 44.16 for the Pies. They'd smacked them in most stats areas. Inside 50s, 35-17. Clearances, 35-18. Disposals, plus 71. They just controlled the football. They controlled every facet of this match. And Collingwood just didn't have an answer. They looked like they weren't even out there on the park at times with the ease that the Bulldogs had this game throughout major chunks of it. Best and fairest votes. Ellie Blackburn gets the 3, Isabel Pritchard 2, and Alice Edmonds gets the 1. Multiple goal kickers. Ellie Blackburn kicked 4 in the best game of her last couple two seasons. Last couple two, that's a weird way to say that. Last couple of seasons. And Sarah Hartwig, as we said, kicked a couple in the first half, ended up with 2 goals. Good performance there. MVP votes. I don't think there's any doubt about who was the highest rated player on the ground. Ellie Blackburn had 25 disposals, 2 clearances, 4 tackles, 4 goals, 317 metres gained, and 2 goal assists. Did it all offensively. Ellie Blackburn, a great performance. Alice Edmonds was next with 8 votes, 18 touches and a goal in the ruck. Isabel Pritchard gets the 6 for 33 disposals, 11 clearances. An insanely good game. 4 goes to Brittany Knecht, 23 disposals, good performance there. And Riley Wilcox on the wing gets the 2 votes, 17 touches and a goal. Another good performance. Collingwood, not many players played great, let's be honest. But Geordie Allen got the 5 for 16 disposals in the back line. Brittany Benici is always there abouts for Collingwood. Bit down on usual numbers, but 14 touches, gets 4 votes. Carly Ramos, 15 touches, 13 tackles, gets the 3 votes. Tani White is probably their shining light so far this season, and is the only player currently in the All Aussie Rules rating system for Collingwood that is rated as elite, as that general defender, playing really well this season. And Ruby Schleicher gets the 1 vote, went off injured late. Can't remember exactly what point of the game it was, but in the second half did spend most of it on the bench, but still did enough to get the 1 vote in the rating system. Moving along to where that sits both teams, the Doggies, they're 2 wins, 5 losses, as are Collingwood after 7 rounds. Bulldogs, though, their percentage is a lot better thanks to winning by 57 points, and Collingwood's is quite bad for losing this one by such a big margin. Overall, both teams' finals is still just out of range for them at the moment, you'd think. They're just not quite there. Bulldogs certainly look good on this one. But the 3 or 4 weeks before that, Collingwood had looked really quite good. They had obviously lost by 4 points to Melbourne. They then got beaten comfortably by the Roos, beat Sydney, only lost to Hawthorn by 9 points. And then this one was a really bad performance. Bulldogs had been struggling a bit, to be honest. They did okay against Hawthorn 5 weeks ago, but then the next few games, they just weren't quite at the level that they had been, I don't think. But this week, they showed up and they played an absolute cracking game, and great performance from them. They play Port Adelaide this week. It's not going to be an easy one, but both teams currently sitting 2-5 with very similar percentage. Collingwood, they head over to the west to play West Coast. That will be a tough game for them. West Coast win that. They are genuinely a finals-looking team this year, so that's a lot to play for the Eagles this week. We move to Sunday football and have a look at these games. St Kilda Port Adelaide was the first. And for the second time, the St Kilda Football Club this season, obviously the previous time was the men's team, but they did a massive three-quarter time deficit comeback. Insane performance from the Saints, how they won this one. They end up winning it by 11 points. At three-quarter time, they looked dead and buried. First quarter was a domination by Port Adelaide. They kicked 4 out of their 6 goals in that first quarter. When they kicked their fourth late in that first quarter, you were thinking they were going to win by an absolute mile. Wasn't to be. Saints kicked the only 2 goals of the second quarter to make it look a lot more respectable, only down by 12 points at half-time. But then the next quarter was the reverse again. Port Adelaide kicked the first and only 2 goals of the third quarter to lead by 27 points at three-quarter time. And then it all went pear-shaped. Unlike the previous time I said there was a massive scoring advantage to one end, this one, without a doubt, there was. It was every single goal of the match kicked towards the one end. All 14 goals to the one direction, which is crazy when you think about it. And I think it was only 3 points kicked to the one end. So 0-3 to 14-8 for the match for the two ends. That is a massive discrepancy. But take nothing away from the Saints. Their fourth quarter was absolutely perfect in this one. Led by Jesse Wardlaw, no doubt about it. Kicked 3 goals in a row between the 6-minute mark and the 11-minute mark of that final quarter, and got them within a kick at that point before Georgia Patricios and Amber Clark kicked the final 2 to win by 11 points for the Saints. Port Adelaide, very disappointing day, which really puts a bit of almost a dagger in their season, if we're being completely honest. If they had won this one, their season was well and truly back on track, but wasn't to be. Team ratings suggest St Kilda were the better team on the day. A lot of that in the last quarter. They did have an extra 50 touches, 2 inside 50s in the match. Team rating suggests 61.38 to a 57.2. 50.72 is quite a big gap in favour of the Saints. Best and fairest votes, we've got to go Jesse Wardlaw for that last quarter, which was just insanity. 2 to Tiana Smith and 1 to Piper Window in her return game. Hasn't played since the first round of the season when she got injured, so came back and played a good game. Multiple goal scorers, Jesse Wardlaw with 4, 3 of those in the last quarter, and Gemma Houghton kicked the 2 for the Power. MVP votes for the winning team in the St Kilda Saints. 10 goes to Jesse Wardlaw, 4 goals, 14 touches. Tiana Smith gets the 8 votes. Ashley Richards, another good game in this one, gets 6 votes. Serene Watson gets the 4, and Jamie Lambert gets 2 votes. For the losing team, Port Adelaide, Shania Goody was good, gets 5 votes. Piper Window, as we said, returned here and got 4. 3 to Matilda Schultz in the ruck, 2 to Ella Heads, and 1 to Molly Brooksby in the back line. That's how that game shaped up. What that means for both teams. St Kilda are equal on wins with 6, 7, and 8 on the ladder. Their percentage is a fair way behind them. However, a game against GWS Giants this weekend opens up a world of possibility for the Saints. If they were to win this one against the Giants, which I won't say they will, but I would say you would imagine they would. They win that one, it's season on. They've still got a genuine chance. They've had a weird sort of season, but they've won their last 3. They play the Giants this week, and I think they play Collingwood the week after, or certainly over the next couple of weeks. So they've got a genuine chance to push for finals over the next few weeks. So things are looking all right for Saints all of a sudden. At 3/4 time, it was not looking that way. On the other side of the fence, Port Adelaide's season is into a shaky spot. They've struggled to find any consistency, and it's really starting to show. 2 wins, 5 losses. This is a team that made a prelim final last year. They've struggled to put it together this season. If they lose this one, you can pretty much say that they're going to miss finals. 6 wins, hypothetically, is going to be enough for finals. So if they won every game after that one, still could make it. But you'd have to think that if they don't beat the Bulldogs this week, it might be all she wrote for the Port Adelaide Football Club in 2025. Next up, it was the Crows and Swans in what was probably game of the round. An absolute ripper on Sunday afternoon. The Crows end up winning it by 2 points, holding on late. It was a game that both teams did have a little bit of lead time. Adelaide certainly led for more of the match. They kicked the first 2 of the game. Swans then got the next 2 to have a dead level at quarter time. Second quarter was much of the same, but Sydney did take the 5-point lead into half time. It was goal for goal there for a bit. Right before 3/4 time, and Hatcher kicked a goal to give the Crows a 6-point lead, and in the end, that's all they needed. Only 1 goal kicked in the last quarter, and that was to Chloe Malloy. But it wasn't enough for the Swans, and Adelaide held on late. Team rating 57.04 for the Crows, 58.28 for the Swans. Suggests that the Swans had chances. They certainly had more of the football. Inside 50s, though, were +9 for the Crows, +8 clearances also for Adelaide. Best and fairest votes, I think you have to go to the losing team for 3 here. Laura Gardner was absolutely insanely good in this game. Was for major parts of this game carrying this Sydney team, trying to keep them in it. So 3 votes there to Laura, 2 to Niam Kelly, and 1 to Ebony Marinoff for the Crows. MVP votes. Oh no, we usually do multiple goal kickers first, don't we? Chloe Malloy was the only multiple goal scorer with 2. MVP votes for the winning team, as always. Ebony Marinoff gets the 10. Very rarely do we see Ebony have an off day, and in this one, this was her 100th AFLW game and stood up again. 25 touches, 14 tackles, 7 clearances. Kelly gets the 8 for 31 touches and a goal. 6 to Maddie Newman with 20 touches, having a good season. Tia Charlton, 15 touches, 8 tackles. And Danielle Ponta gets the 2 votes for the Crows in this one. For the Swans, as we said, Laura Gardner was best on ground. 37 touches, 1 goal, 15 tackles, 7 clearances. Just an insane stat line across the board for Laura Gardner. A very impressive game. Tanya Kennedy gets the 4 for 21 touches, 10 tackles. Zippy Fish, what a season, debut season Zippy has had. 25 touches in this one. Playing on the wing a bit more this week and absolutely stood up. Having a fantastic first season. Chloe Malloy kicked a couple goals, gets the 2 votes. And Alice Mitchell gets the 1 vote for the Sydney Swans. That means that the Crows are now 4th on the ladder. They've won their last 3. They play bottom of the ladder Richmond Tigers this weekend. They win that one. They will be hoping that a team above them drops a game, and they could potentially move up a spot. Their percentage is probably too far behind those of Melbourne and Kangaroos, so they're probably going to have to win more games than them if they were to finish above them. But Hawthorn, who are directly above them, have a percentage well below that of the Crows at the moment. So things can change quickly in terms of percentage in the AFLW competition, but they're certainly shaping themselves up for another tilt at top 4. Sydney Swans, they've lost 3 in a row. They play Kangaroos this week. Could be 4 in a row losses. It's not the end of their season. Things will get easier for them. Obviously, they've had a really tough run. They certainly would be regretting that loss to Collingwood a few weeks ago, which was their first loss of the season. But we said it gets easier. It probably doesn't in actual fact. They've had probably some self-inflicted pain losing to Collingwood and GWS, because now they play Adelaide last week, who's a potential top 4 team. Then they play Kangaroos, who are the clear number 1 team. Then they play Carlton, who are a clear finals team at the moment and pushing maybe for an outside chance for a top 4 spot. Then they play Melbourne, who are second on the ladder. So they don't really get much respite over the next few weeks. And Eagles, not an easy match either in round 11. And round 12, they finish with the Bombers. So after winning their first 4 games of the season, you've got to think that just maybe there's a chance that they don't even play finals this season, which is absurd to think when they were 4-0. Things could change. They could come out and beat the Kangaroos, but there's certainly some pressure on the Swan season right now. 2 games left to look at from round 7. Brisbane playing Richmond is the first of those. Brisbane too good. As we kind of expected, 7-12-54 to 3-2-20. Richmond put up a bit of a fight early, but the strength of the Lions prevailed in the end. It was 4 points to 2 at quarter time. Brisbane finally got the first goal through Courtney Hodder halfway through the second quarter. Richmond then kicked the next 2 to give them a 2-point lead at half-time. They then kicked the first of the third quarter through Ellie McKenzie, and it was like, oh, maybe we've got a game on. But Brisbane turned it around, kicking the last 4 goals of the third quarter and the only 2 goals of the last 5 goals of the match to end up winning by 34 points. Brisbane Lions too strong in the end. Team ratings suggest that they were much better, 60.56 to 43.06. The stat sheet certainly also agrees. Plus 17 inside 50s for the Lions, plus 2 clearances, an extra 42 disposals. They did considerably beat the Lions, but the Tigers, sorry. But the Tigers put up a fight on the scoreboard throughout most of this game. So not a bad performance from the Tigers based on the fact that they haven't won a game this season yet. League best and fairest votes for this one. 3, we've gone with Ali Anderson, another player playing their 100th AFLW game on the weekend. So 2 of them at the exact same kickoff time. 21 disposals and a goal for for Ali Anderson. Courtney Hodder gets the 2, as we said, kicked their first goal of the match. And Grace Egan for the Tigers played her best game of the season. Has missed a few weeks, obviously. But maybe even best game of the last couple seasons. Really good performance. 24 disposals. MVP votes. Did we do multiple goal kickers? I can't even remember if we did or not. There were none either way. MVP votes. Ali Anderson gets the 10 as the highest rated Brisbane Lion. Courtney Hodder gets the 8, 18 disposals and a goal. Kathy Spark gets the 6 votes for the Lions. 4 to Brianna Conan and 2 to Sophie Conway for the Lions. For the Lions. I'm getting my Lions and Tigers confused. For the Tigers, 5 votes to Grace Egan, as we said, best game of her season so far. 4 to Mon Conti, once again, always up there in the votes, always around the football. Libby Graham, key defender, gets the 3 votes, a good performance. Ellie McKenzie gets the 2, and 1 goes to Ali Dalloway for the Tigers. Brisbane, finals is well and truly on the cards, as you'd expect for them, even though they did have a rough start. They've won their last couple. They play Gold Coast this week in the Q Clash. They win that. they're right knocking on the top 4 again. Top 4 is going to be hard for them based on the fact that they did lose 3 games in the first 5 weeks. But if they can win all the way out from here, you just never quite know, because it's going to be an interesting run home for them. Obviously, Gold Coast this week. Port Adelaide is a tough one, but they're not in great form. But then they've got Essendon. Melbourne's the real tough one, and Collingwood. So they genuinely should win all but maybe 1 or 2 at most of these games coming home. So finals is almost certainly going to be the case, you'd have to think, for the Lions in 2025. Top 4 might be a stretch because, I mean, they're a game end percentage at the moment out. The top 4 teams are looking good, but if they can put together all those wins, top 4 is definitely probably going to happen. So we'll see what happens, but Brisbane are looking okay. Richmond haven't won a game yet this season. They play Adelaide this week, so that's not going to be a win either. Going by our stats here at All Aussie Rules, they have had the second hardest draw of every club this season so far, so they have been a little bit unlucky in terms of that, and you'd hope that somewhere in the run home it will turn around. Unfortunately for them, if we do the same stat in 2 weeks' time, I have a feeling they are going to be the team that has had the hardest run in the competition so far, because they play Adelaide this week and then they play North Melbourne in round 9. So the next 2 weeks is tough. What a 3-week stretch that is. Brisbane, Adelaide, North Melbourne, all 3 of those made a prelim final last year. So Richmond did draw the short stick this year. After round 9, there are a couple chances to get their first win. Collingwood in round 10. I think Collingwood have been the better team out of the 2 so far this year, but it is a potential win for them. Fremantle over there, I can't see them winning that one. But they do finish up hosting Gold Coast Suns in round 12. That is potentially a win chance for the Tigers. Hopefully it doesn't get to there, but maybe if it does, they might be able to pull off a win to finish their season. So that's the end of that match. We'll move now into the final game of the round. And it was the West Coast Eagles hosting the Giants. And West Coast broke some of their own records in this one. I think it's their highest ever score and their biggest ever win in the AFLW, winning by 42 points after kicking 11 goals, 9. Kind of the result we expected. The Eagles' best is good. Giants have played some okay games over recent weeks, but we still feel like they're probably a bottom 5 team, whereas West Coast are probably in that range from 7 to 12 on the ladder, I would say. And that's basically how this game played out, I think. It was 4 goals to 1 at quarter time, pretty high scoring first quarter. Second quarter was a little bit less. It was 34 to 13 at half time. In the third quarter, there was a bit of a fight back from the Giants. They kicked the first 2 goals of the quarter to get them, in the end, at that point, within just over a kick. I think they were about 6 or 7 points behind late in the third quarter. That was at the 14-minute mark of the third quarter, but it all went the other way from then. The Eagles kicked the last 3 goals of the third quarter in the space of about 4 minutes to give them that 26-point lead at 3-quarter time and a bit of a comfortable gap. Giants did kick the first of the last quarter, but then the Eagles kicked the last 3 goals of the match to win comfortably in the end. Team rating suggests they dominated it, 64.08 to a 52.13. Stat sheet agrees. Inside 50s plus 15, clearances plus 4 for the Eagles. Giants did have plenty of the football though, an extra 11 disposals in this match. Best and fairest votes, 3 to Ella Roberts, 2 to Courtney Rowley, and 1 to Rebecca Beeson. Multiple goal kickers in this one. Amy Franklin kicked 3 for the Eagles, Kelly Gibson 2 for the Eagles. And for the Giants, it was Isabel Huntington with 2 goals. MVP votes in this one. For the Eagles, first up, Ella Roberts. What a season she's putting together. I think currently 5th or 6th highest rated player in the AFLW so far this year. 23 touches and a goal with 6 clearances, 8 tackles, 10 votes. Kelly Gibson, 2 goals, 3 from 13 disposals, gets 8. Lauren Wakfa, 16 touches and a goal with 16 hit outs, 6 votes. Jade Britton, putting together a good season, 18 touches and a goal. Charlotte Thomas gets the 2 votes, for the Eagles. For the Giants, 5 votes goes to Catherine Smith, 21 touches. 4 to Cambridge McCormick, who we mentioned earlier as top 2 key defender in the competition so far this year. Rebecca Beeson gets the 3 for 27 touches. Sally Goldsworthy has had a good run of form over recent weeks. 23 touches, a goal, 9 tackles here, 2 votes. And Alicia O'Dowd, really good game there. 14 touches, 12 hitouts, and a goal. Both teams are sitting in completely different spots. Eagles 8th on the ladder, 4 wins, 3 losses, solid percentage. A win against Collingwood this week keeps them in that fight for the finals. If they were to lose that one, unexpectedly lose that one, their season could fall apart. But a win would be huge. It would keep them with these top 8. It's certainly starting to get a little bit spicy because, all teams in the top 8 right now would genuinely believe they are a top 8 team. But teams just outside, St Kilda obviously equal on wins with a few of those teams, but then also Geelong, Essendon, certainly Geelong would feel like a finals team. And there's certainly teams that are wanting to get into that top 8. So it's going to be an interesting run home for many, many reasons. GWS are 15th on the ladder, 2 wins, 5 losses. They did win back-to-back games before losing this one to the Eagles, beating the Bulldogs and the Swans over the previous 2 weeks. St Kilda this week, if they were to win that, then who knows? But I think they're just playing for development and some pride and whatnot throughout the rest of their season. So too much work to do to have any chance of finals. So yeah, it's just about development and pride right now for the Giants. Our tips for the week did not go great on the podcast. We tipped Geelong to beat Hawthorn. That did not happen. We said by 4 points. It was Hawthorn by 7, so we weren't too far off. Demons, we said by 27. They won by 87, so we're a fair way off there. Kangaroos won by 30, so a little bit off there. Carlton, we said by 8. They won by 9, so very close. We had Collingwood by 11 points. They lost by 57, so that was our worst one of the week. The Power by 16, we said. That was looking good at 3/4 time, but the Saints had different ideas. They won by 11 points. Crows won by 2, not too far off there. The Lions won by 34, pretty close again there. And the Eagles won by 42 to wrap up the round. We said 15, so fair way off. 6 out of 9 for the week, 44 out of 63 for the season. Yeah, pretty much sums it up. Moving on to the BNF leaderboard. This is how it sits after every game through the first 7 rounds. 3-2-1 we give, obviously, for each match. Ash Riddell is just the walk-away leader at the moment. But there is a bit of competition behind her. Ash Riddell on 19. Kate Hoare is having an insanely good season, 15. Ali Anderson and Ella Roberts equal on 12. Georgie Prospakis on 11. Then a 3-way tie next. Georgia Nanscarwin, Tiana Smith and Isabel Pritchard all on 10. And then a 6-way tie on 9 with Ebony Marinoff, Dana Finn, Kiara Bowers, Eliza West, Jasmine Garner, and Laura Gardner. Garner and Gardner. Just to make things confusing there. Next up, we have the MVP leaderboard, and no surprise who's leading that one as well. It's Ash Riddell on 52 votes after 7 rounds. Ebony Marinoff on 49 is in second. Kate Hoare and Ella Roberts equal next with 47. Lucy Wales on 45. Ali Anderson from the Lions on 43. So both Players that reached the 100-game milestone on the weekend, both in the top 10, Ebony Marinoff and Ali Anderson. Georgia Nanscowen, Georgie Prespakis, and Jasmine Garner all on 42 votes, still within a game's range of the top on the leaderboard. Kiara Bowers on 40, Laura Gardner 39, Tiana Smith on 37, Harriet Cordner on 36, and Eliza West rounds out that top leaderboard with 35 votes after round 7. We're now just going to jump across and have a little preview of round 8. So, round 8 matchups. We kick off on Thursday night this week. It's Hawthorn Fremantle at Kinetic Stadium. 7:15 Australian Eastern Time kickoff. Should be a cracker. Fremantle, they need to win. They need to start winning some games of football. They're struggling to do that at the moment, but maybe this is their opportunity to turn that around. But it won't be easy because Hawthorn are flying. They're putting together some really good form of late. They're sitting third on the ladder. They've barely put a foot wrong this season, and you'd have to say it's difficult to see this being the one that is wrong. They've only lost one game. That was to Adelaide. They're really good at winning close games this season as well. They've won a lot of close games. They just keep getting the job done. Last year they met once in week 6 over in Perth, and Hawthorn won it by 9 points. 2023 Fremantle won, and 2022 Fremantle also won that one. So Hawthorn did turn their tables last time, so I think we stick with Hawthorn based on what we've seen. Teams have actually already been announced for this game. 3 changes for the Hawks with some big names out. Eardley, Bates and Butterworth all going out. Everest, Simmons and Flockhart coming in. Dana East in for Fremantle. Ola Lally out for the Dockers. You'd have to back the Hawks, I reckon. We'll be doing our tips at the end of this episode, so stick around. That will be in about 6 or 7 minutes. We will have our tips for round 8. Next up is Friday night footy. Yes, that's right. We're back with Thursday and Friday night footy with AFLW. And it's Melbourne Essendon. This will be at Icon Park. Demons short-priced favourites. No surprise there because they are absolutely flying at the moment. Bombers did play their best game of maybe the season, certainly over the last month or so, last weekend against the Roos. But this is not going to be easy. The Demons are absolutely flying. They met once last year and the Bombers did win that by 65 points. This is a different Demons team though. Coming off an 87-point win last week, a 51-point win the week before. They were absolutely doing everything right, the Demons, and it's hard to see a world where they don't continue that this weekend based on what we've seen so far. Next up, it's an important game for the Saints. It's the Giants hosting St Kilda, Henson Park, 1:05 kickoff on Saturday afternoon. Saints coming off 3 wins in a row. The Giants had won 2 in a row before last week, going down to the Eagles by 47 points. If the Saints genuinely want to play finals this year, they have to win this game. Giants are playing for pride, but I just don't think they're good enough to beat the Saints based on what we saw on the weekend. St Kilda beat the Giants last year when these two teams met by 34 points. 2023, the Saints won by 13 points. And go back to 2022, February, round 5, the Giants beat the Saints by 2 points. You got to stick with the Saints based on current form and form of this whole season, really, I think, is how I see it at least. Next up, we have what was looking like game of the round probably 4 weeks ago. All of a sudden, not looking quite as appetizing, although it might still be game of the round. To be honest, we'll see how that shapes up. But Utah's Stadium in Launceston at 3:05 kickoff. North Melbourne top of the ladder versus 6th on the ladder Sydney. I will be at this game. I'm looking forward to it. It's hard to see a world where the Kangaroos don't start this one as short price favourites. These two teams have met twice before, and the Kangaroos have smoked them in both. Last year, they met in week 7, and the Kangaroos won it by 60 points, 87 to 27. They also met in 2022, round 6, and the Kangaroos won that one 67 to 1 by 66 points. So they're the only two meetings between these two teams. Kangaroos haven't lost in basically forever. Since the 2023 grand final, they have not lost a match of AFLW football, and eventually it is going to happen. Maybe it happens this weekend. A few weeks ago, I would have said it was a possibility, but the Swans have certainly struggled over the last 3 weeks, losing to Collingwood, GWS, and last week, forgivable loss against Adelaide. I still think they genuinely are at their peak, a team that's capable of being a top 4 team. They've probably really hurt their season over the last few weeks, but I still think we stick with them and say that just maybe they are a chance against North Melbourne this weekend. It's not going to be easy, but maybe. Next up, we head to the Q Clash. We've had a few Q Clashes this year. Obviously, in the men's competition, we had 3. Now we get the one in the AFLW. And, I mean, it's going to go the way you'd imagine that most of the men's games, 2 out of the 3 in the men's competition went, and that's Brisbane being too strong for the Suns. 7th on the ladder v 17th. It's pretty much a team that's really good v a team that's really struggling over the last couple of seasons to put too much together. They met last year, the Lions won it by 16 points. They met 2023, the Lions won it by 36 points. And they met in 2022, and the Lions won that one by 73 points. It's hard to see a world where the Lions aren't too strong for the Suns, who just look like they're still a little bit away or a little bit off any teams that are genuinely competing in finals contention. Next up, we head to South Australia for the Saturday night game, Port Adelaide v the Doggies. This could be a cracking game. I actually think on paper this might be game of the round, which is a little bit surprising. But Port Adelaide Bulldogs, it's 2 teams that are sitting in similar spots on the ladder. The loser probably says goodbye to their season. The winner hanging by a thread on still potentially making finals. 14th v 13th. We're looking at the Doggies, who have won 1 of their last 5. That was last week when they smacked the Magpies. And the Power, who have won 2 of their last 5 but lost their last 2 after their meltdown in the final quarter last week. Both teams 2 wins, 5 losses on the season. They've met twice before. Port Adelaide won by 40 points last season, and in 2022 they met and the Bulldogs won that one by 19 points. So they're 1-1. On paper, being in South Australia, you have to think Port Adelaide in this one. Bulldogs away form is not spectacular, but their home form's okay. I think we stick with the home team here, but if Bulldogs play like they did last week, I certainly wouldn't be writing them off in this game. We move across to Sunday football. We kick off with the Tigers v the Crows. Bottom of the ladder v a team fighting for a top 4 spot. You'd imagine we know how this one's going to go. Crows, you'd think, are going to be too strong. They're 5-2 on the season. Richmond yet to win a game. Crows have won their last 3. A couple of them against some pretty decent opponents in Hawthorn and Sydney, with the other one against Gold Coast. So I think Crows are just flying too strongly at the moment. They've met twice in the last few years. 2023, Crows won by 29. In 2022, they met and the Crows won by 9 points. I'm not confident that Richmond can win this one. That is for certain. You just think the way this Crows team is and has been playing over the last couple of seasons, occasionally they show some weaknesses, but that tends to be against the really good teams. So I don't think this is one of them. So I think the Crows should be safe on Sunday afternoon at Icon Park. Next up, we're going down to the Cattery for the Cats v Blues. This will be at GMHBA Stadium. A very important game for both teams. Geelong want to win this to keep finals chances realistically a genuine chance. If they were to lose this one, finals is not off the table, but they then would have to win maybe all but one, if not all their games coming home. Whereas if Carlton win this, it's probably seals them into a final spot just about. 7 wins would be enough for finals, so 2 more wins from now would be enough. Potentially 6. But more importantly, it would keep them well and truly in this top 4 race. Currently 5th on the ladder. They're playing some superb football. You take out that one loss to Kangaroos 2 weeks ago. They've been playing some really good football. Granted, maybe not against the best teams, but 5 weeks ago they beat Brisbane by 14 points. So that's a really impressive win. Geelong, they just keep... I feel like they're a team that is capable of being up there with most teams in the top 8. They just continually don't quite get across the line, and that's a big issue. So they lost to Sydney by 5 points, and they've lost to Hawthorn by 7 points. They're both of their last 2 losses. Obviously, they lost their first couple games before that, which were a bit more disappointing. A 30-odd point loss to Kangaroos, and I can't think of their other game. But was also against a decent opposition. So they've been playing some tough teams for their losses, but unfortunately, close losses are still losses. Yeah, they've got a few wins. If they can win this one, maybe they can get on a roll. But it's not going to be easy. Carlton this year are playing some really good football. They're entertaining to watch. They play a really good brand of football. So check this one out. It is probably actually the game of the round. I know I said Bulldogs Port might be. I think this is actually the game of the round. The ramifications for both teams are just huge on this one. So we'll see what happens on Sunday, but tune into this game. It could be a good one. One final game left of the weekend. It's over in Perfect Mineral Resources Park. It's West Coast 8th on the ladder v Collingwood Magpies 16th on the ladder. The market will suggest the Eagles should win this, and I don't think too many people would argue with that. A couple of weeks ago, Collingwood were starting to look all right, but last week they were shocking. Meanwhile, the Eagles just continue to improve. They're looking like this might be their year for finals. The last couple times these two teams met, Eagles beat them by 17 points last year. Collingwood beat them by 24 points in 2022. And all the way back in 2020, Collingwood won by 27 points, but that is a long time ago now. Collingwood, even though they only have 1 win in their last 5 games, they'd been playing some okay football. 4-point loss to Melbourne, really good. 9-point loss to Hawthorn, really good. 45-point loss to Kangaroos, not spectacular, but okay. And obviously a 26-point win to the Sydney Swans was great. Last week, very disappointing 57-point loss to the Bulldogs, though. Meanwhile, Eagles just keep getting it done. They beat Saints, they beat Port Adelaide, they beat Giants last week comfortably. Their losses against Melbourne, obviously a really good team, and Fremantle, a bit disappointing for them, really, but they are still above Freo. It's hard to see them losing this game, if I'm being completely honest, based on what we saw last weekend. West Coast look really good against the lower-ranked teams. I think they just need a little bit more work to catch up to the rest of the teams above them, but they look really good against the lower-ranked teams, so I think they should be too good here. Meanwhile, Collingwood, they're best when they have a good game plan. I think that's their big thing, like against Melbourne, against Sydney, even against Hawthorn. Their game plan was really, really strong, and I think that led their way. I don't know what it was last week. They just looked off the pace completely against the Bulldogs, so they'll be hoping they can bounce that back this week. Jumping into my tips for round 8, let's run through them. We're going Hawthorn on Thursday night to be too strong against Fremantle. I think Freo will put up a good fight. Hawthorn haven't really been blowing teams away. So I've gone Hawks by 11. Demons to be too strong for the Bombers. I know the Bombers were good on the weekend, but the Demons are just not putting many feet wrong this year. Got them by 32. St Kilda, after what they did in the final quarter last week, full of confidence, I have them to beat the Giants by 20 points. Kangaroos to be too strong for the Swans by 23 points. I'm looking forward to that game, though. The Suns and the Lions, we're going to Lions by 46. It's hard to see them losing that game. I've gone Power by 9 points over the Bulldogs, just based on the fact that it is in Adelaide. I genuinely could toss the coin on that game, I think. Crows by 37 over the Tigers. I think the Tigers are showing some decent signs, but unfortunately for them, they're just playing some really good opposition right now. Cats by 2 points in an absolute toss of the coin against Carlton. This game could go either way. I feel like I've got the Cats wrong just about every week this year, so wouldn't be surprised if I get it wrong again here. But we're going Cats by 2 points. And to round out the weekend, the Eagles by 26 points over Collingwood. We're 44 out of 63 on the year, so we're doing okay. Not spectacular, but we're doing okay. That's pretty much everything we have for you in this episode of the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast. This was episode 73, round 7 review, round 8 preview. A lot of football coming up this weekend in the AFLW. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already. Leave a comment, let me know how your AFLW team's going. Don't forget to hit the subscribe or follow button depending what platform you're on. Plenty of men's content coming out soon. We've got season reviews for the final 2 teams in Geelong and Brisbane. We have all your free agency and trade news all over social media and on YouTube, so go check them out. And most importantly, on Monday, the next episode of the podcast, episode 74, will be our AFL Men's Awards Night episode. So we'll be going through all of our awards for season 2025. So make sure you tune into that. That will be going live on Monday. Next AFLW episode will be out next Thursday, which will be our round 8 review and round 9 preview. So make sure you come back for that one as well. No matter what platform you're on, make sure you come back. I appreciate you. My name is Jay. This was the All Aussie Rules Football Podcast, episode number 73 of the year. I hope your team does well this weekend in the AFLW, and I will catch you on the next one.